depressed, suicidal, or otherwise extremely downtrodden members of Reddit, what is your go-to quote, phrase, or particular memory in life that keeps you going?
Honestly, spite. I've seen friends commit suicide and then watched all the people who caused them their pain pretend to grieve and talk about how close they were or how much they loved them, etc. You can't stand up for yourself against that bullshit if you're dead. On a more positive note, a quote from a Doctor Who episode I think of often is, "The way I see it, every life is a pile of good things and bad things. The good things don't always soften the bad things, but vice versa. The bad things don't necessarily spoil the good things and make them unimportant." I have been diagnosed with GAD and have panic attacks pretty often. I always remember a quote for my hero in Avatar: The Last Airbender. "Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you just keep moving, you will come to a better place." The song The Next Right Thing from Frozen 2 is full of these. The one that helps me the most is, "I won't look too far ahead. It's too much for me to take. But break it down to this next breath, this next step. This next choice is one that I can make." As someone who has MDD and panic disorder and just broke off a 3.5-year relationship, this sentiment is especially helpful for me right now. You don't have to figure out everything you're doing forever, just what you're doing next. I didn't think it would end this way. End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path, one that we all must take. I've dealt with depression for over 16 years, and 7-ish years ago, I was diagnosed with HIV. It was such a life-changing moment for me, and my depression spiraled out of control. I brought myself out of that dark place, but it's a fight I always have to fight. When my depression starts to get the better of me, I remember that scene with Pippin and Gandalf in The Return of the King. Gandalf comforting Pippin with the knowledge that death is not an end, but a new chapter, really hits home to me. I feel like Pippin in so many ways, afraid of dying, afraid that I wasted the time I have, feeling so small and insignificant, but Gandalf is right, and dying isn't the terrible end of line that we imagine. We are all destined to die from the moment we were born. It's okay. It's normal. It might seem counterintuitive, but this has helped me let go of my fear of death. Accepting my fate allowed me to see the world with new eyes. Accepting my eventual death helped me to live, to want to live. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. MLK Jr. When you think you've reached the end of your rope, tie a knot and hold on. One awesome thing about Eeyore's friends is that even though Eeyore seems to be clinically depressed, he still gets invited to participate in adventures and shenanigans with all of his friends. And they never expect him to pretend to feel happy, they just love him anyway, and they never leave him behind or ask him to change. "I wish it need not have happened in my time," said Frodo. "So do I," said Gandalf, "and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." A poem by Rumi reminds me that feelings pass, and I am not my turbulent emotions, they just live in me for a while. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows, who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. It's a bad day, not a bad life. I believe in soulmates. No matter how shitty my life is right now, I don't not want to be there to have my meet cute. I don't want someone lovely to be lonely because I wasn't there. I'd like to believe that whatever demons are chasing him, that he has a similar outlook. For the Horde. Honestly, when a group of complete strangers treat you like family just because you play a game, that's a whole another level of hope. You don't only belong to yourself, you know? There isn't anything in this world that belongs only to yourself. Everyone has connections to someone else and shares something with them through these. That is why you can never be free. Also, 900 years in time and space, and I have never met anyone who wasn't important. Do not go gently into the dark night. Rage, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Planning on it as my next tattoo. Resume by Dorothy Parker. Greater than razors pain you. Greater than rivers are damp. Greater than acids stain you. Greater than and drugs cause cramp. Greater than guns aren't lawful. Greater than nooses give. Greater than gas smells awful. Greater than you might as well live. I want to wake up in this world knowing that you're still in it. Something my friend told me. Edit, wow, I didn't think this would get so many upvotes. Thanks. So it goes. I watched a YouTube video made in South Korea that was a social experiment to see what people would do to help someone trying to commit suicide, and one part really touched me. The girl said something that I always remind myself of now when I'm feeling suicidal. It was something like, today's sunshine was too bright to do that. Your meal was too good to die today. And on the days when I feel nothing and struggle with apathy, when I'm feeling there is nothing good to stay for, I force myself to think, today was too bland and dark to be my last. My food will be so good tomorrow. I will smile next week, I will laugh next month, and love next year. I will live for longer because it's too good to be alive to die today. My personal favorite. Take life by the hands, not the collar it drags you by. Gets me through the hardest days. Especially when it feels like you don't have control. When others speak ill of you, live as though no one would believe them. Plato. I was suicidal as a teenager, and it took standing on a literal ledge, about to jump off, to realize I do not want to die. And that realization is something that carried me through the worst days, because even when there are days when I may not want to live, not wanting to die beats that any time. It's not very inspirational or positive, but this has helped me get into a way better mindset. With this pain inside of my chest, got no choice but to carry on. I won't falter. I will keep moving. Like a centipede. Sui Ishida. As a 22-year-old, I had to chart important life events as part of a school assignment. I also had to grade them from miserable to best feeling ever. I tried, and I could not think of anything to place on the chart. A lot of stuff had happened. I got put into care after leaving an abusive household, went to live on my own, got my high school diploma, etc. I could place these things on the chart, objectively. But subjectively, I could not put any feeling onto these things. They just were. The worst part of it was that I could not think of a single thing that went over the neutral zone, say a 5 out of 10 on the scale. Everything I could think of just hovered around that middle line. It dawned on me that was my depression in full play. Depression isn't feeling bad all of the time. Most of the time, it's just not feeling anything. Not happy, not sad. Just big emptiness. So I haven't got an answer to your question. There are maybe some things I can pretend to be happy about. But not really, not deep down inside. It's just a windswept desert in there. I don't want to become a statistic that transphobes will use. If I were to kill myself, I should have done it before I started testosterone. Now that I'm on it, I don't want anyone to say that it doesn't help or that it made me feel worse. I have a few, but one in particular helps more than others. It was 2001, I was 8, and all I wanted for my birthday was a TV. My mom was dating this loser who was painfully unemployed, and sat at home and smoked weed all day. We were pretty much always strapped for cash. My mom always kept a food budget. Anyway, my mom repeatedly told me we couldn't afford a TV at the moment and she'd get me something else. So, on my birthday, I had a big box in my stack of gifts from friends and family. I opened it to find a decent sized TV, for the time anyway. I cried and jumped into my mom's arms. She held me and cried as well. We have it on film somewhere. The point is, my mom has always loved me enough to put me first. She still does. If she was always willing to fight through the toughest times for me, I can do the same for her. There's a novel I read in school called To Live, and in it the main character goes through just about every kind of hell available. Goes to buy medicine because his daughter is sick, ends up fighting on both sides of the Chinese Civil War, comes home and his daughter's deaf because she didn't get the medication. Wife dies, son dies, daughter gets married, dies in childbirth because Cultural Revolution means no doctors. Son-in-law dies, and eventually grandson chokes to death and the man is left alone. At the end of the book, the man he's telling his story to asks, "How do you keep going?" His answer, "The point of living is to live, there is no other purpose." My mum thought that was terribly bleak, and was horrified that we were reading that book as teens, but I honestly find so much power and strength in that story, and particularly in that line. He's not one of those insufferably chirpy guys who always finds a silver lining and looks on the bright side. He knows his life sucks, and he is aware of every ounce of the pain he has been through. But the point of living is to live. So he keeps living. And so do I.